Yep, don't move. Totally fine right there. Welcome back. Today we are going to be reviewing this pattern. This is New Look 6708. I am so excited about it. It was 2 pages and it is a basic blouse that you could kind of have it be 3/4 sleeves or full length sleeves. So the first step was to cut out all the pattern pieces. In total there were only 5 pieces, so it really wasn't that many, and then they did have a lot of sizing and measurement help so that you could really tailor this to meet your needs. As you could tell the whole time, the cat was helping me with this, but there wasn't anything too hard. You just really had to follow the directions for which pattern pieces you would need. All of them used the same amount, it was just the sleeves slightly changed. Once I had them cut out, I did start to lay it out on my fabric. I definitely could have used a little bit more fabric, but this was a remnant and I was trying to make do with what I had for this mock-up. I did opt to use pattern weights instead of pins, as I didn't want the pattern to get destroyed, and sometimes I find that when you use pins it can kind of start to get ripped up a little bit, but I just cut very carefully around all the pattern pieces, and this did take a little bit of time, but I think if you could have used a rotary cutter, or if you had electronic scissors, that would have made this a lot quicker as well. Once I had it all cut out, I did go ahead and just start sewing according to the instructions, which were very simple to follow. One item that I did note that when I started to work on this was it didn't really tell you how to finish off your seams at all. I really like to have that professional look so that you wouldn't be able to see any of these raw edges, and nowhere in the pattern did it say how to handle that. The places where you were maybe, like, let's say, going to have a lot of friction or a lot of coming into contact with, it did have ways that you could finish those off, but for example the side seams and this back seam, it was just going to be the raw edge. So I'd recommend, doing some sort of zigzag stitch so you're not stuck with that. And then next I had this very tiny little piece, and this was actually the closure for the back. And what became difficult about this was because the fabric I used, it actually ripped the first time. So as you're going to see when I put my little turner in, it just kind of poked right through the fabric. So be sure you have some extras, or really take your time when you are doing that piece. And then once you have it turned, once again, to kind of reduce that raw edge with this, I did fold it in on itself and then took the seam across. This was a little challenging just because the piece was so small, but I wanted to be sure that it wasn't going to be fraying at any point. Once I had that done though, it was really time to just start constructing the top. So to match the front with both the back, so sewing up those side seams, as well as sewing the sleeve on, all this was very straightforward, and you did get to learn about gathering some, which I thought was a really great step to introduce into this pattern. Then for the sleeves, you did have to add little casings for elastic, which, make sure that you are measuring things out appropriately so that you don't have like one sleeve being a lot longer than another. So just some really great ways to learn some beginning sewing techniques. Once I had all of that done though, you did have to finish off the collar using bias tape, which I thought was a really smart way to do it. And then you did have to start to hand sew a little button on. So I thought this was a really fun thing to do, as I love to add buttons, and you got to practice some of your hand sewing. Overall, I think that this pattern was a really great starting off pattern. I'm expecting to make a lot more shirts with it, as I think it would be really good for winter to make a long sleeve one that'd be a flannel. And then, as you can tell, you could have so much fun adding whatever buttons you had around your house. I think that this was really great though. I'm so excited I got to make it, and this turned out to be a really good mock-up. One thing to note is I would say to be careful on the gathering on the sleeves, as on one sleeve on this you'll see is gathered a little bit more than the other. But overall, you learned some great skills and it was really fun. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to like and subscribe and tell me in the comments.